Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CD guy, Johnny Z here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel, and today I'm going to take a look at 10 great metal covers of popular songs. Let's get things started here with The Real Me by WASP covering The Who. And, Blackie Lawless has made no secret over the years that one of his biggest influences as a songwriter is Pete Townsend, so it makes sense that he would, cover The Real Me here on the Headless Children album from 1989. Originally, of course, The Real Me from the Quadrophenia record by The Who, and this is a tough matchup because I love both versions. The original is one of my favorite Who tracks, but Blackie's cover is also one of my favorite Wasp songs of all time, and so the lyrics and, overall delivery remain the same on both versions, but Blackie Lawless's vocals are far more aggressive, and so they definitely just put it over the top for me. I think it trumps Roger Daltrey's version a little bit, but Wasp is a little bit stronger as far as I'm concerned, again, off the Headless Children album, which is just fantastic from top to bottom here, and so, again, I love the Who's version from Quadrophenia, but I just prefer Wasp's version with Blackie Lawless's vocals a little bit more, and of course, Wasp's version would go on to become a live staple for the band ever since the release of the Headless Children on pretty much every tour up until now. So, great stuff here, two great versions, but for me, a little bit more of a fan of the Wasp version, which, like I said, is one of my favorite Wasp songs of all time. Next up, how about Wish You Were Here by Avenged Sevenfold covering Pink Floyd. Now, nothing is coming close to the original by Pink Floyd. The title track to their 1975 album is perfect, and, there's really no room to improve upon it, in my opinion. It's a perfect track as it is, but that being said, I do really like Avenged Sevenfold's version here from the stage from 2017. I think M. Shadow's vocals, fits really well onto this song, and the band themselves have said that a metal band covering more metal songs just seemed boring to them, so it is cool to hear Avenged Sevenfold branch out and to cover Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd, and again, nothing is going to touch the original by Pink Floyd here, but the Avenged Sevenfold version is really cool, and the band do a great job, so definitely worth giving that track another listen, in my opinion. Very underrated cover as far as I'm concerned. Let's follow that up with Jesus He Knows Me by Ghost covering Genesis, and, Ghost have a vast array of great covers from bands such as, Metallica, to the Beatles, to Tina Turner, and to Genesis with their cover of Jesus He Knows Me from the Phantomime EP from last year here, and the original by Genesis from the album We Can't Dance is reimagined here by Ghost, fitting into the band's trademark sound, altering the reggae bridge section of the original as well, and so, yeah, definitely a tale of two different songs here, especially vocally, Phil Collins and Tobias Forge, two very different singers, and so it's tough to decide which version is better because both of them bring something unique to the table, and kind of unique is Ghost's middle name, right? And so, to decide which one is better here, it's definitely difficult, but I'm gonna have to go with Ghost just a little bit more, just by a thin margin. I'm a bigger fan of Ghost than I am of Genesis, and so I did really enjoy their cover of Jesus He Knows Me from Phantomime, although probably not even the best cover on this album. I'd probably have to go with their cover of Iron Maiden's Phantom of the Opera, but in terms of, great covers of popular songs, they did a fantastic job of reimagining Jesus He Knows Me, originally by Genesis. Number 7 here, Lay Lady Lay by Ministry covering Bob Dylan. And, question, has anybody been covered more in the history of rock music than Bob Dylan? I mean, it seems like everybody covers Bob Dylan, and rightfully so, a fantastic songwriter, but Lay Lady Lay was originally recorded in 1969 by Bob Dylan for the Nashville Skyline record, and Bob Dylan sings in a low, croon style of vocal, different from his usual high, nasal delivery here. Al Jorgensen of Ministry reimagines it for the band's 90s industrial sound on Filth Pig. You have a deep, chunky, distorted bass line, electronic percussion, and acoustic guitars, as well as Al Jorgensen's really unique vocals. So, even though, I'm not a big fan of Bob Dylan, I definitely enjoy, his work, and I think that he wrote a lot of fantastic songs. And so, when it comes to, these songs transferring over to other bands, a lot of these bands do great covers of Bob Dylan tracks, and even Bob Dylan himself has said he likes this version here. So, between the two versions, I'm more of a fan of Ministries, just for the fact that I've never been a big fan of Bob Dylan's vocals. As a songwriter, one of the best of all time, but I've really never been able to take to his voice, and so I definitely have to give the edge here to Ministry and their version of Lay Lady Lay from Filth Pig from 1996. Number 6, how about Summer Breeze, originally recorded by Seals and Crofts, covered by Type O Negative here on the Bloody Kisses album. Originally written by Seals and Crofts in 1972, the original reached number 6 on the US Billboard Hot 100. Type O Negative decided to cover this track for Bloody Kisses, and it was originally going to be titled Summer Girl, featuring all new lyrics here. It's a take on the song by Peter Steele, lead vocalist here, but upon reviewing the lyrics, Seals and Crofts found the lyrical content to be distasteful, and so the original lyrics were used instead on Type O's cover, and so same lyrics, no problem. Peter Steele does a fantastic job of adding an entirely new dimension to this track here, taking what was previously a summer anthem and turning it into a gothic metal masterpiece, and personally, I'm a much bigger fan of the Type O Negative version here. Type O always did a fantastic job of taking a cover and making it entirely their own, while also doing justice to the original, and so that's what I look for, what makes a great cover, and I think Summer Breeze is a fine example of this. Great track here from Bloody Kisses, which is just a perfect Typo Negative album from top to bottom, and great cover here by Typo Negative, and they've done so many fantastic covers throughout their career, but this is definitely one of their all-time best. Top 5 now, let's go with Sound of Silence, recorded by Disturbed, covering Simon and Garfunkel. Disturbed's version of Sound of Silence is a fantastic showcase for David Draymond's vocal ability here. His booming voice echoes throughout the band's cover of Simon and Garfunkel here on their 2015 album Immortalized, and the cover was a big hit for the band, right? It really did put Disturbed back on the map, as Immortalized was a big comeback album for them. The cover, like I said, very successful, but how does it compare to the original? You know, the vocals are far heavier, giving, you know, this song a lot more of a haunting vibe to it, in my opinion, but I still think the original by Simon and Garfunkel is stronger. First and foremost, you have the vocal harmonies between Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel, which are just great. And, you know, also from a songwriting perspective, Paul Simon wrote this song when he was 21 years old, which is very impressive. So the original composition is pretty untouchable in my opinion, but Disturbed's version is super anthemic and powerful as well. Next, we have Sweet Dreams Are Made of This by Marilyn Manson, covering Eurythmics. And, you know, I've given Marilyn Manson a lot of flack on the channel in the past, almost to the point where whenever I give him, you know, his props on the channel, people get mad. But I'll reiterate what I've said before, and it's that I'm not much of a Manson fan. I find a lot of his catalog to be overrated, to be perfectly honest with you. However, you know, I think that, you know, even I have to admit, his cover of Sweet Dreams Are Made of This, originally by the Eurythmics, is stellar. You know, far better than the original, in my opinion. Manson takes what was an upbeat synth pop style song and turns it into this haunting, brooding style cover here with, you know, a creepy atmosphere and vocal delivery by Manson as the lead single from Smells Like Children. And, you know, this is a very stark contrast between, you know, this one and the original. Really a tale of two different songs as far as I'm concerned, just about in every respect. But Manson absolutely made this song into his own here and gave the band their first legitimate hit from Smells Like Children. So a very successful song for Manson. Great cover here, in my opinion. Even though I'm not a big Manson fan, even I have to admit it's a fantastic job. Top 3 now with Turn the Page by Metallica off of Garage Inc. You know, Garage Inc. is full of fantastic covers. This is even my favorite cover off the album, but I'd say Bob Seger's Turn the Page is probably the most famous and popular song that Metallica covered here on this record here, and so I wanted to talk about it in the top 3. I think Metallica's rendition of Turn the Page, originally by Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, is, you know, taken again at the same tempo, but, you know, it's got this heavier feel to it. The saxophone is replaced instead by a high slide guitar line from Kirk Hammett, and, you know, the story goes that Lars Ulrich was driving over the Golden Gate Bridge and heard this song for the first time and thought it would sound great with James Hetfield singing it, which I always thought that story was a little bit funny. Like, Lars was almost 40 here because he was just discovering Bob Seger for the first time. Like, that's funny to me. But anyway, is it better than the original, though, by Bob Seger? I go back and forth between both versions, honestly. It really depends. But, you know, despite keeping the same tempo, it's really a tale, once again, of two different songs here on display. You know, Metallica's version differs in terms of, you know, it's definitely more polished for sure, but you just can't get lost in Metallica's version the same way you can in Bob Seger's version from Live Bullet. So, for me personally, when it comes to which version is my favorite, it depends on the day, but no doubt Metallica's version of Turn the Page is great, and it just fit their sound absolutely perfectly. So, great stuff here by Metallica. All of Garage Inc. is great. Again, like I said, it's not even my favorite cover off the album, but definitely the most popular, and so Turn the Page, gotta put it on the list here in the top 3. Number 2, we have Come On Feel the Noise by Quiet Riot, covering Slade. You know, Quiet Riot never really reached the same heights again as they did with their cover of Come On Feel the Noise. You know, it's so popular, there are probably some people out there who don't even know it's a cover, and probably have never even heard of Slade, great underrated British rock band, and the original track by Slade would reach number 1 on the UK singles chart in 1973, but would reach new heights a decade later when it was covered by Quiet Riot on the Metal Health album. Quiet Riot's cover reached number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 and propelled Metal Health to number 1 on the Billboard 200 as well. So is this version better than the original? Absolutely, in my opinion. You know, Slade's version is great, but, and you know, take nothing away from that version, but Quiet Riot's rendition is much stronger, in my opinion. This track served as an anthem for, you know, 80s heavy metal, amplified by powerful vocals from Kevin Dubrow as well, which really takes the song to the next level. And finally, coming in at number 1, let's go with Diamonds and Rust by Judas Priest, covering Joan by Baez. It's been a live staple of Judas Priest since it was released on Sin After Sin. Originally released by Joan Baez in 1975, the song was a top 40 hit in the US pop singles chart for Baez and is regarded by a number of critics and fans as, one of her all-time best compositions. So definitely tough competition. The Judas Priest version takes the folk rock song and turns it into a traditional metal track here with the trademark Judas Priest dueling guitar work from Glenn Tipton and KK Downing, and of course the powerful soaring vocals by the metal god Rob Halford as well. Priest have also done a stripped down, back to the roots acoustic version of this track in the past, which, both versions fit the band and Rob Halford's voice so well. So is it better than the original by Joan Baez? I'm biased because Priest are one of my favorite bands of all time, so I would definitely say yes. I do think it's stronger than the original, which takes nothing away from, the Joan Baez composition, but the band put their spin on it and they made it much heavier, and so for me, I do enjoy the covered version of Diamonds and Rust from Sin After Sin a little bit more than the Joan Baez version. Again, take nothing away from the original, two fantastic renditions of the track, but just more of a Priest fan, and so I tend to lean more in that direction. So that wraps up this video here, taking a look at 10 great metal covers of popular songs, which you guys can see right over here. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel down below, turn on the bell for notifications so you don't miss a new upload, and be sure to let me know down in the comment section below what are your thoughts on my list and what are some of your favorite metal covers of popular songs. I want to hear from you. And until next time, it's the CD guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.